first, Bulls and Hornets, Kemba Walker. Good handles, bad shots.
Oh, he missed. Oh, I didn't see this one.
Missed it all.
Oh, I was loving it until he pulled up.
Oh, and it was online, too.
That was that New York City Rucker Park handle right there.
No. Oh, no.
Hey, it happens.
Kimba's having a great year.
Hawks at 76ers, Richaun Holmes with the come-from-behind block.
That's what you call climbing the ladder.
Man. Now, what? Let me see. Oh, no, he got it. That was clean.
Oh, yeah. Just in time. Yep.
That's number 22 in a Philly uniform with a chase down block. Will there be a number 23 in a Philly uniform with chase down block?
Right?
Next
You're hoping.
year? I'm open to it. Watch this.
Finally, what a finish between Miami and UNC. First, the Tar Heels tied up with a 3. Then Miami senior Jaquan Newton throws it up, wins it for the Hurricanes at the buzzer.
On your senior night, UNC.
Don't celebrate too soon.
You know what this reminded me of? The national championship game against Villanova.
Oh, Villanova.
No, because UNC hit a 3 to tie the game, and then Villanova came down with a 3 to win it.
It's that time in the show when we discuss catch rule controversies. We call it the catch rule controversy time of the show. Remember that Des Bryant catch that you thought was a catch but was ruled no catch back in the 2014 divisional playoff game against the Packers? The NFL Competition Committee got together and said that this should be a catch going forward. By the way, I just said the word catch 8 times. It's got to be some kind of record. Nick, is the committee getting this right?
I hope the committee is getting this right. We got to see how the rule is officially written.
Because it's not done yet.
It's not done yet, but they are trying to adjust. They are trying to be a little more liberal, if you will, on the going to the ground rule. Now, the person normally sitting in Chiris Broussard's seat, Chris Carter, told us 2 things. 1, that this was going to happen, and 2, that he wasn't exactly happy that this was going to happen.
He's as strict as it gets.
He is
as
strict as it gets.
The bar is high for Chris Carter.
I get it. He's one of the best to ever do it.
And I feel like there's a little ulterior motives. Like, the harder it is for people to catch footballs, the harder it is to catch his records.
Exactly.
But, so they are going to try to make it so things that to fans appear to be catches are, in fact, catches. And that's critical. And I will give the NFL credit for this, because the NFL, at its core, has turned into a passing league with moments of intense violence. That's what 2018 pro football is. And there was a period of time where fans didn't know which parts of the violence were legal. Now fans do. Fans have a pretty good idea of that's helmet to helmet, that's a defenseless receiver. So whether people like those rules or not, fans at least know what they're seeing. So that's the violence part of it. But the passing part of it, when you have a league that reliant on passing and the fans aren't sure, is it a catch? Did the ball move? Is he going to the ground? That's problematic for your consumer.
But wait, and it's not just the fans. Broadcasters are confused.
Correct.
Other players are
Everybody's confused.
Former officials are arguing about it. And so adjusting it, Chris, to where, just to quote the great John Madden, a fumble's a fumble and that's a fumble. Where a catch is a catch and that's a catch, adjusting it to more towards that standard, I think is good for everyone. I think it'll be hard to implement, but I think it's good for everyone.
You said it, hard to implement. The more we talk about it, the more confusing it gets. There was a time you didn't really think about what is a catch. You just saw it. It's a catch, period. And now we overthink it. I like that they're trying to change it, but what I saw, and a lot of this is based on John Mara and his quotes about what they're talking about. There still was a lot of vague talk and a lot of ambiguity. I even think the Calvin Johnson, because he said we all believe the Des Bryant catch from 2014, the Calvin Johnson catch where he caught it, came down in the end zone, and basically landed like with the ball on the ground. I think those are different plays. I think Calvin Johnson, I think Des Bryant was definitely a catch. I thought his arm stayed under the ball even when he hit the ground and it popped up. This,
you're not as sure.
I'm not as sure because it looks like Johnson could be being slick. Like, I can see why the NFL could be, oh, he played it off like he's just throwing it down and celebrating.
Or maybe he needed to.
Yeah, because he was off balance. He's coming down. Look, if your hand is on the ball like that and you come down, it can easily pop out.
So this is a great example, just that There will always be controversy and arguments. And I want fans to know this is not going to be some panacea. This is not going to be some cure-all. They said in these quotes, 17,000 passing plays yesterday. When we were discussing the rule, it was fewer than 10 that would be affected by the adjustment. But there's some of the famous plays from last year. The Jesse James play potentially.
And they don't agree on that. Mara said that he's not sure everybody agrees on that.
There's some controversy there. So what I would like two things. One, I would like this. Get rid of the going to the ground component, which it seems like they're moving towards. Meaning, if you catch the ball and have non-football definition of possession, meaning you are controlling the ball, even if once you hit the ground, you lose control for a moment, that is allowed to be a catch. But most importantly, I would like the NFL to go back to this standard, which is the call on the field is gospel, barring overwhelming evidence, obvious evidence that can be seen quickly.
Isn't that sort of what it's supposed to be?
That's what it is supposed to be.
Right. So if that's already what it's supposed to be, and look at the confusion they have, I agree with you. You're 100% right. I don't know how you implement that.
Also, Nick, let me ask, because you mentioned going to the ground. Usually they've had the two-step rule, right? Are you saying, because I think a football move doesn't necessarily have to have 2 steps. Jesse James made a football move, didn't take 2 steps, broke the plane too. Like, all of that has to be looked at. I mean, this is...
To me, Jesse James, and just like for me, the problem is the argument essentially has been, and I know it's a little confusing to the viewer, but the argument essentially has been you can't make a football move while falling, which is Dez was falling. To me, his football move was reaching for the goal line.
They both
Jesse James was falling. Yeah. To me, his football move was reaching across the goal line. Chris Carter's point always is you didn't have to fall, know the rules. And I understand that in a vacuum. But this has to be, to a degree, what do the fans think should be a catch? And unless it's something crazy, let's err on that side. And I just want to remind the audience, when they instituted replay, there was a timer associated with it. It was 90 seconds you could look at a play. And if you could not overturn it within 90 seconds, it was, well, then the call on the field must stand. I would like to see them go back to that. And this is something we see in baseball, we see in basketball, and we see in football. The super slow motion, frame by frame analysis, it almost becomes a physics lesson. Like, can you ever actually possess something? You know, because when you go that slow of it, I wish the NFL, and people would say it's anti-technology, I wish there was a maximum, or a minimum, I guess the way you would put it, speed you could show it on replay for the refs.
Right.
Because you see it in baseball, it's like, oh, the guy beat the tag, but for a 1/10 of a second or 100th of a second, he comes off the bag. Like, that goes against the spirit of these rules.
Also, are they going to address, like, even the Kelvin Benjamin catch for the Bills when they said he didn't have possession? By the time he got full possession because the ball was bobbling, I thought it was a catch.
That is
fans would think it's a catch.
is not being addressed.
That's not being addressed, but what did you think about that play? To me, that was a catch too.
But that was a foot not about rule. That's more about what you're seeing. The question there was, did he touch his second foot back down? I thought he did. You thought by the time he had it back.
Because the ball was bobbling a little bit. No,
just the fact that there are so many outstanding plays that even you two right here can't imagine. Just a group of guys that are going to have a blanket rule that's somehow going to make everybody happy. It just feels like we're so far from having something.
I feel like
you analyze the catch, the tougher it gets.
I feel like it's a step in the right direction.
And I think you're onto something with the more we rely on the slow motion going back to replay, the more trouble we all seem to get into, whereas we have refs on the field, let them go ahead.
It all started with technology.
100%.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, did LeBron take one step closer to becoming the GOAT? Greatest of all time. Next on First Things First.
How can you get a step closer to something